No shame, man. That's right. That is a slogan for World Men's Mental Health Day. What men need to know about protecting their state of mind. The news at 8 starts right now.
Live from 42nd and 2nd. This is New York's very own PIX11 Morning News.
In honor of Men's Mental Health Day tomorrow, the Village Institute launched a campaign called No Shame Man to help encourage the normalization of having difficult conversations surrounding men's health. They say the goal is to let men know that it's okay to not be okay. Right now, we have psychotherapist and men's health expert Josh Jonas from the Village Institute to give us some tips on how men can really deal with struggling issues in their lives. So good morning to you, Josh. How you doing?
Hey, good morning. I'm well. Thanks for having me on.
I think this is such an important topic to talk about because this is something that is not often discussed because of the stigma around it, right? So from your experience, how important is it for us to prioritize mental health, especially in men? Because men have this idea of like, I have to be macho, I have to be tough, I can't show weakness.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's, I couldn't be a therapist if I didn't think it was so important. But, the thing is, I think about it like this sometimes. There's a great quote by a legendary boxing trainer. His name was Customato. And Customato said, the hero and the coward feel the same thing. It's just that one moves forward and the other moves back. And the problem is so many men don't know this. So many men believe that having painful feelings inside, just the having of them, means that they're doing something wrong. And once men believe that they're doing something wrong, that's when shame starts to set in.
Yeah.
And then when shame sets in, that's when men really start to isolate, try to go at things alone, or just isolate to try to stay away from painful feelings. And when we do that, it so does not work. When we try to stay away from painful feelings, they grow exponentially. And so there's such a better way of dealing with these things and such a better way of working with them.
So, walk me through this a bit. What are some of the steps then, because I'm listening to you so carefully, that was a fantastic quote, by the way, but what are some of the steps that men can take if they're experiencing a mental health struggle? And what, in layman's terms, I know it's a loaded thing, but what could be described as a mental health issue? Anxiety, depression, what are you talking about here?
So again, such an important question here because, and this is really what the campaign is about, because so much of the time when we speak about mental health, there is anxiety, there is depression, there is sadness. And especially with men, there's also just something called drift, which is this very sort of low level thing where your life is not going in the way that you want it to go, but it's very hard for you to pinpoint exactly why. And so you just kind of feel adrift. But in terms of tips, because, insight is important, but we also want to have our to-dos. The first tip that I would give, as simple as it sounds, is to acknowledge that something painful is actually going on. There's a great quote by famous psychologist Carl Rogers. He said, "It was not until I accepted all that I was finally able to change." So just the acknowledgement that something is painful is going on is a great first step. If you're able to acknowledge that, the next thing is to actually try to have some compassion for that part of you that's struggling. This can be very difficult for men. This is something I've struggled with in my life. We tend to really want to rage at the part of us that is struggling. And so compassion can really help to loosen things up.
Interesting.
Another thing that I would then say is to look for the places in which we're numbing. Numbing is one of the top ways in which we really try to sort of calm or get rid of our painful feelings. In Dante's Inferno, the 7th level of hell is men frozen up to their necks. So we have a long history of numbing. And so there's obvious ways in which we do it, drinking too much, drugs too much, but there's covert numbing. There is binge watching TV for hours and hours. There's always having to have the radio on in the background, constantly buried in a book. These are very covert ways in which we numb. And so looking for these ways and trying to eliminate them is really helpful.
That is an excellent point, because that is what I do. I've often talked about these anxieties and depressions that I've felt, and there is that shame and stigma around it, but I've always just thought, okay, let's keep busy. Let's just do everything in my power to ignore that there's this hamster wheel of emotion going on in my head and just kind of look at the shiny object to the right and pretend it's not existing, and not picking up the phone to actually call and actually get help. So I want to get to this important thing for those who are hearing that other men are experiencing this and realizing it's okay. You launched a campaign to normalize mental illness, especially among men. So tell me real quick, because we're running out of time, about the No Shame Man program.
Absolutely. This has been a passion of mine for a while, and the campaign is designed to raise awareness for men's mental health as well as to normalize and destigmatize it. But we're doing it through what we call a growth model, meaning that so much of the time when we talk about mental health, like I was saying before, We think that something has to be wrong, and there absolutely can be.
Yeah.
There may be, but so many men want to grow. So many men want to become better versions of themselves, and there is no better way to do it, I believe, than through some just really good, deep internal work. And it's what we do at the Village Institute. People can reach out to us if they want to start this work. That's what the campaign serves as well, as a resource to reach out. Men can reach out, or women also, on behalf of the men in their lives, can reach out if they're looking for someone to help them do this work, or if they don't want to work with someone, they want a place to begin. That's what the campaign serves as well.
Could talk to you all day, every day. I mean, you are a wealth of knowledge, and those quotes were perfect today. So thank you so much for joining us on such an important topic, letting men know it's okay. And come back anytime, okay?
Hey, my pleasure. I'd love to. Thanks so much.
All right, 8:45, everybody, and we'll be right back.